for Lent, we want to focus on the cross and resurrection. We need to get there before Easter, so we have to jump ahead in John. And so we're landing in John 11, which is the Lazarus story. And again, I need to give you a little context. And it always includes two things. And you'll see what those are. Jesus went to Jerusalem, that's one. Jerusalem seems to be always in context here. He went to Jerusalem for Hanukkah. Did you know that? Jesus went to Jerusalem for Hanukkah? He did. It was the Feast of Dedication, is what John says, and it was in the wintertime. That's Hanukkah. So he was there, and they tried to stone him, so he left. And then where did he go? This is the second thing we always see. Where did he go? What are we talking about? What's our theme for the year? He went to water. Yes, thank you. This is what he does. He goes to water. I'm not making this water thing up. It's there. It's there in the text. He went back to the other side of the Jordan, John says, where John the Baptist, before he was arrested, was baptizing. So it's winter in Jerusalem. He leaves there. He goes to the water. He goes to the Jordan River. And all of a sudden, nature starts to wake up. We have this fresh green in the trees. Are you noticing this these days? You hear some exotic birds out there that don't seem to be singing their song in other parts of the year here. And the pollen's out, and my sinuses started flushing. And, it's that time of year. So that's where Jesus is right now, the same as us. And he's by the water. He's down by the river. And there came to him a message. And this is the message that came to him. This is 11:1 through 16.
Now a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. Mary was the one who anointed the Lord with perfume and wiped his feet with her hair. Her brother Lazarus was ill. So the sisters sent a message to Jesus, "Lord, he whom you love is ill." But when Jesus heard it, he said, "This illness does not lead to death. Rather, it is for God's glory, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it." Accordingly, though Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus, after having heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Then after this, he said to the disciples, "Let us go down to Judea again." The disciples said to him, "Rabbi, the Jews were just now trying to stone you, and are you going there again?" Well, Jesus answered, "Are there not 12 hours of daylight? Those who walk during the day do not stumble because they see the light of this world. But those who walk at night stumble because the light is not in them." After saying this, he told them, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am going there to awaken him." The disciples said to him, "Lord, if he has fallen asleep, he will be all right." Jesus, however, had been speaking about his death, but they thought he was referring merely to sleep. Then Jesus told them plainly, "Lazarus is dead. For your sake, I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him." Thomas, who was called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, "Let us go also, that we may die with him."
Jesus' response to the message is a little bit curious. It's contradictory on the surface. What he says first is, this sickness will not end in death. Then he says, Lazarus has fallen asleep. Then he says, Lazarus is dead. It's a little strange. And then he hears this news, and then did you notice he stayed 2 more days? It was nice over there by the river. Yeah, he went ahead and stayed a couple more days. So my job as the preacher, right, is damage control. I'm to sit here and explain, no, Jesus didn't mean that in that there was Sabbath or something. Come up with something to explain what Jesus is still sweet Jesus. Damage control, right? That's what my job is here this morning. Well, I'm not doing it. This is what my take is. Jesus is taking advantage of a teaching opportunity. This seems to be the way he works in the Gospels. It seems to be the way he works in our lives. We can't explain why something bad would happen. This is bad news. A friend is sick, and Jesus knows he was dead by then, because when they went 2 days later, it's only about a day away, and he'd been dead for 4 days. So he was dead at that time. And so this was bad news, and Jesus didn't explain why this bad thing had happened. We don't know why bad things happen, do we? We're not sure. We can't explain why God would allow a bad thing to happen. Nor should we try to explain that to a loved one who's suffering. More often than not, we find, though, that somehow only God can do this. He uses it for a good purpose. He teaches us through it. He redeems it in a way. It's not the reason for the bad thing. It's just we don't know that. It's just that he does something good with it. God takes a teaching opportunity, right? And we probably wouldn't have learned this lesson otherwise. There's a quote from C.S. Lewis here. God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pain. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world. We'll leave that up there so you can copy it down. It's a good one. So asking why, getting angry, well, that might be natural, and that's okay. God can handle that. It doesn't really change anything, does it? And often what we find is the only thing we can change is ourselves. And we do this best by listening to God. So that's what I see in this passage. I see that Jesus takes this bad news of Lazarus on his deathbed and even dead, and he takes advantage of it and uses it for a teaching opportunity. And he's talking to different people, and everybody's different, and so he tailors the message to his audience that he's speaking to. And so what we see today is we see 4 people or 4 groups of people, and we see 4 messages, 4 teachings that Jesus has specifically to them. So I'll keep this below 20 minutes, I promise. But there's 4 lessons here. And the lesson to the first group is to the disciples. Jesus is speaking to the disciples. He gets this news, and he uses it to teach the disciples. And what I get out of this is what he's teaching the disciples is that divine confidence is greater than human concern. Divine confidence is greater than human concern, guys. That's what he's trying to teach. His first reaction to the news of his beloved friend, we're told that he loved Lazarus, is that this will not lead to death. And that word in the Greek, lead to, has a lot of meaning to it. It's movement, it's towards, it's a goal, it's a destination. The end of this, the destination of this bad event will not lead to death. The end will not be death. In fact, what the end will be, Do you remember what he said? The end of this will be to the glory of God. And he will glorify Jesus through it. So that's divine confidence in the face of bad news, to say, God will be glorified. I don't know how, but God will be glorified. And divine confidence is what the disciples needed. This is within a couple weeks of Jesus going back into Jerusalem. He goes to Bethany there, right next to Jerusalem. He goes back into Judea, across the river, and goes back into Judea. Bethany's right there. And then we have the triumphal entry in chapter 12. And that's his last week of his life. So the disciples needed that divine confidence. Jesus would soon be dead. And while he would resurrect and they'd have some appearances from the resurrected Jesus, what he's doing each time is he's calling them, he's commissioning them to a very dangerous business of continuing his ministry. And they well knew, as even Thomas said at the end there, that it probably would cost their life. They were risking their life. So they needed divine confidence. They needed to understand that even my death will not end in death. The end of this is not death. The end of this, where this is going, is to be the glory of God. Divine confidence, God will be glorified no matter what. And then that takes over the human concerns. And then there's this light of day parable. It's kind of sounds like a Bobby Bowden type saying where he says something completely obvious, but somehow it sounds profound. He said, if we were winning at halftime, the speech is always, if they don't score, we will win. They probably knew that. They probably knew that. And that's Jesus sounds a bit like him. There's 12 hours in a day. If you walk in the light, you don't stumble. But if you walk and you don't have any light, you're going to stumble. You know, that's one of those really, yeah, right. But what he's saying is he's saying it's about timing, isn't it? Don't you think? It's my time. That's why I'm going back there. It's my time. God has his timing. Timing is everything, isn't it? Timing is everything. And guess who knows everything? Not us. Timing is everything, and God's the one who knows everything. So we have to trust him with the timing, right? That's divine confidence. Trusting to God's timing. And God is trying to teach me divine confidence this Lent. Hi, my name is, right here. I shared this last week, but I'll share it again. I'm Hebrews 12:2. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame. For the joy, he did it. Why did he do it? Because he knew it would end in joy. That's why he did it. So God gave me that verse, and I've been thinking about that joy. And then he brings me back to the well-familiar place of the second half of Matthew 6, about don't worry about stuff. God knows what you need. Seek him first. He'll take care of everything else. And I thought I'd get something new, but then he leads me back to that same place. And then you combine the two, and it's God is saying, here's what I want you to give up for Lent. And this is what I love about when I get something meaningful out of Lent. It's not just me giving something. I give something weak and bad that is my anxiety and my worry, and I get back something great that is his joy. So I'm not just giving up something and it's costing me, and I'm short because of it. I am short anyway, but you know what I mean, financially short in that type of analogy. I told Noah, I said, he said, man, those high school boys are tall. And I said, no, let me break it to you now. You're not going to be tall. But you're handsome, okay? And that's more important. Okay. Where in the world am I? Trade your anxiety for joy. I shared this with someone this week. I had seen her around town in the grocery store, stressed out. And I said, trade your anxiety for joy. That's what Jesus told me this Lent. See, that's divine confidence. I'm going to give him my worry. I'm going to give him my anxiety. I'm going to give him my stress. And then he's going to give me back his joy, because it's going to end in joy. We need to remember that. I need that divine confidence. So that's the lesson to the disciples. Here's the lesson to sweet Martha. This is 17 through 27.
When Jesus arrived, he found that Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, some 2 miles away, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them about their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him, while Mary stayed at home. Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that God will give you whatever you ask of him." Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." Martha said to him, "I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day." And Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live, and everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this?" She said to him, "Yes, Lord. I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one coming into the world."
So the lesson to Martha. Do we have any Marthas in the room? Vicki, you've admitted that to me before. I know. You know who you are. Any Marthas here? Martha had faith. Martha really had faith. You see 2 strong statements of faith. If you were here, he would not have died. So she believed that Jesus had the power to heal. And then she said, well, even now, God will not deny your request. So Martha really had faith. But Martha also had a type A personality. And it's something that everyone in the United States covets, as if we don't have a type A, we're lazy and worthless or something. I don't know. I was in a business way back in a business class, and they were kind of going through these personality types, and they went through them, and they said, now who's a type A? And everybody raised their, I am. And no one wanted to be anything but a busy bee type A. That's what we shoot for here. We covet that. And we know she is because of Luke's story. Martha's doing all the work. You know the story in Luke of Mary and Martha. This is the one we all remember, right? Martha's doing all the work. She's worried about everything, and Mary's sitting at Jesus' feet, listening to him. And she says, "Jesus, send lazy sis." That wasn't a curse word. She was actually speaking to him. "Send lazy girl over here and tell her to help me. Come on. You're going to enjoy this food later. I'm worrying about doing everything." Yep. And there's this tension. There's a tension for type A's. There's a tension between type A's like to be in control, don't they? Type A, in control. Faith, you've given up control. Right? You get it? Faith, to have faith, to live by faith, is to daily submit. It is the sitting at Jesus' feet was significant there. That's what Mary did. She sat at his feet. She submitted to him. Submitting to God is to let go and let him. I like what Joey said. We're beings. God made us to be beings, not doers. That goes in right there, doesn't it? In the day-to-day buzz of our busyness, we all have so much going on. I told the servant board last week, I said, you guys don't understand how much the parents have going on nowadays. Kind of gave them that frustrating. Yeah, like they had nothing going on themselves, right? And they don't have anything. We love to do that to each other. You guys, you don't understand how busy I am. I remember when Charlie Greenberg said that to a woman who had 3 kids. And he said, she was talking about busy. He said, you don't understand. I said, Charlie, she understands. Let me tell you, she understands. So we get so busy in all of our stuff that we say, God, I have faith and I submit to you, but I'm busy right now. I am getting my stuff done. Getting all my tasks, my to-do list is getting checked off. Anyone familiar with that type of life? Yes. Well, here's the word to you, to all of us Americans. Luke 10:41 through 42. Martha, 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 Martha. You are worried and upset about many things, but only one thing is needed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Yeah. There's nothing more important than sitting at Jesus' feet, submitting to him, and then listening to him, letting him guide us. That is number one priority in each of our days. We are to be beers, not doers. We are to trade our anxiety for his joy. And type A's also, they know everything, by the way. And you get a lot of I knows. Have you ever? We should all have an I know clicker in our pocket for every time we say it. And if you reach a certain number, then you're out for the day. You can't say it anymore. I know. That's that's what they do in chapel, don't they, Marguerite? I know. The kids. I know. That's just because they want to share some things. Martha has 2 here, and what she keeps doing is 2 I knows. She keeps categorizing whatever Jesus says, she categorizes it into what she already knows, which is a natural thing to do. But Jesus is kind of trying to say some things. I want to teach you something here, Martha. I want to teach you something new. And so she's putting it back into what she already knows. Jesus says, your brother will rise again. And Martha answered, this is verse 24, I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. And this kind of reveals to us one of the primary understandings at that time of the way they looked at afterlife. Now, not everybody agreed. They were humans. They didn't agree. But this is one primary view of what the afterlife looked like then. It's you die, you go to Sheol, which sounds really bad, but it's really just a quiet resting place. And you rest. And then there comes that day, and you rise up again. And everybody does. In that day, you stand before God and you are judged. And then you are separated. Everyone is separated. These folks are rewarded and these folks are punished. That was the way they looked at it. So Jesus says, your brother will rise again, and Martha says, I know how it's, I know. This happens, this, A, B, C, D. I know how it works. What does Jesus say in response? 25 and 26. Jesus said, I am the resurrection. I am the resurrection and the life. Anyone who believes in me, even though that person dies, will live. And whoever lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this, Martha? He says he wants to blow that whole preconceived notion. Not that, we don't really know how exactly everything's going to go down, do we? But Jesus says, let me make it simple for you. We today, our view of the afterlife and the general public is all over the place. Get a little from Scripture, some movies, imagination, some other. Oh, that other religion, that's a nice little piece. I'll take that, and I'll take this, and then I'll put it all together. And we say things like "rest in peace," which is kind of going along that Martha understanding that people die and then rest. So we say that sometimes, and then we say they're looking down at us. So we say that, and then we say, well, they're here with me. So we're like this, and then we say, no, they're in a better place. Yeah, and so they're, so I'm not judging. I know people are just trying to process this, but we're all over the place, is what I'm saying, and we are. And what we need is John's gospel. We need Jesus to say, even if God told us what would happen, we wouldn't. We couldn't categorize it in our Martha minds of stuff that we already know. That's all we can do, really, is categorize stuff in what we already know. So Jesus just says, let me make it real simple for you. I am life. I am life. Colossians 1:16 said, in him all things were made. That means even before we were made, we were in him. To be in him is life. And before we were made, we were in him, because all things were made through him. That's probably why children know. That's why I know. That's why they love Jesus. I see that every Wednesday morning. They take to Jesus so quickly. They love Jesus. Because maybe they remember, maybe they're a little closer to being in him. They're a little closer to the creation of them. We were in him before creation. Now we have a chance to be in him now. In the life after, the afterlife is to be in him. Where are our loved ones? Well, I'll tell you what gives me peace: if they're with Jesus. That's where they are. With Jesus. Life is with Jesus, and that's what he says. Martha, let me make it real simple for you. I am life. And the life in Jesus is before creation, during creation, after creation. He's the whole thing. He's the whole life. So that's what he says. There's a lot of good I am statements in John. Jesus says, I am. And this is one of the best. I am life. I am the resurrection. Now we have Mary. This is 28 through 35.
And after she had said this, she went back and called her sister Mary aside. The teacher is here, she said, and is asking for you. And Mary heard this. She got up quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet entered the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who had been with Mary in the house, comforting her, noticed how quickly she got up and went out, they followed her, supposing she was going to the tomb to mourn there. When Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. Where have you laid him? He asked. Come and see, Lord, they replied. Jesus wept.
Mary's not a type A personality. We saw that in contrast to Martha. She's the fortunate, probably the younger child, and the older one had to take care of everything, and she was like the happy, free one, right? Mary was emotional. Mary didn't need to wrap her mind around her brother's passing. She needed to wrap her heart around it. Her heart was processing it. She was emotional. There was lots of people trying to comfort her. That's Mary's personality. And what was Jesus' response to Mary? He wept. Did he say anything? Did he explain anything? No. He just wept. Even though he knew he was about to raise Lazarus up, it would end in joy. Jesus knows all things will end in joy. Remember? For the joy set before him, he endured the cross. But he desires to be with us in this eternal present moment with him. We're stuck in time. And especially our past and future is stuck in time. It's only in the present moment do we have this sense of really what eternity is like. And that's one of the best explanations of the way God operates that I've heard, because it's so hard to even imagine something that exists outside of the grid of time. And what it was God exists, he's in the eternal present. Everything is the eternal present to him. He's existing in the moment. And that's what Jesus was, and that's what Jesus desires to be with us. We can't escape this time thing in our brains. We don't know anything else, except for maybe playing video games and then forgetting what time it is. That's about as close as we get, you know. Those times when you're a kid and you lose time. Those are nice times. Maybe those are a little taste. Jesus wants to be in the eternal moment with us. And if it's a sorrowful moment for us, what does Jesus do? He cries with us. Even though he knows. He didn't say, "Look, Mary, come on, stop crying. I'm going to wake him up. He's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. Mary, come on. I'll take care of it." What does he do? He spends that moment with her. Jesus wants to spend each moment with us, and he'll take the sorrow. He'll be in sorrow with us. He'll be sad with us. That's a friend. Now, the fourth group is the crowd. The crowd that came from Jerusalem just a little ways down to Bethany, and they were there to comfort Mary and Martha. And now Jesus has an opportunity to teach them a lesson. This is 36 through 44.
Then the Jews said, "See how he loved him?" But some of them said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying?" Jesus, once more deeply moved, came to the tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. "Take away the stone," he said. "But Lord," said Martha, the sister of the dead man, "by this time there's a bad odor, for he's been there 4 days." Then Jesus said, "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone. Then Jesus looked up and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me." When he had said this, Jesus called in a loud voice, "Lazarus, Lazarus, come out." The dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen and cloth around his face. Jesus said to them, "Take off the grave clothes and let him go."
Jesus' joy is the end. He endured the cross for the joy. The joy of what? The joy of saving all humanity, all human beings, not human doers, human beings. To be with them is his joy. So that's what he's saying to this crowd. My joy is that you would believe. And if you believe in me, you will have life. Believe in him. Have life. So the disciples need to learn divine confidence. Martha needs to submit control. Mary needs to feel Jesus with her, crying with her, comforting her. And the people need to believe, because that's the path of life. It's the way to life, is to be with Jesus. Before life, during life, after life, to be with Jesus. 4 lessons for 4 different people or groups of people. Hopefully one of these lessons spoke to you. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a couple minutes, as we've been doing, And I want to give you just an opportunity. Jesus is here. Spend a moment with him.